LA is on fire.
Apocalyptic scenes, tens of thousands on the run as homes and buildings burn to the ground.
I mean, this is what's so crazy. If you can't even see the sun, it is completely blacked out.
Flames are up about 30, 40 feet high, and you hear pop, 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 sound like a war zone.
Several wildfires struck in quick succession in the Pacific Palisades, Pasadena, the San Fernando Valley, Beverly Hills. What you see here is roughly where those fires have been burning. Now look at the evacuation zones. Thousands of people have had to flee for their lives.
At least 5 people have been killed and more than 100,000 are now under evacuation orders.
I mean, I was down to my knees when I got up to my parents' house, which was basically just a chimney stack and a pile of ash. I mean, it's something out of a movie.
At one point, more than 1 million people were without power. The air has become too poisonous to breathe. The water, unsafe to drink. And the biggest fires are still completely uncontained.
We're still looking at 10,600 acres out here in Altadena and in Pasadena and up in these hills. Who knows where that will go next?
But one fire, the first to break out, and still the biggest by far, is unprecedented. No one in LA has ever seen a fire there so big, growing so fast, and fighting that fire has been a nightmare.
Out of every fire hydrant you've seen, what have you found?
Right now, we're finding most of them are down or low pressure.
If you had a hydrant for this building,
If we had a hydrant for this building, we might have been able to save the back out.
I'm going to explain everything we know about the Palisades fire and why firefighters can't stop it. The National Weather Service issues a red flag warning when it's warm, windy, and dry. 3 things that can kick wildfires into overdrive. And Tuesday morning, those warnings became very real.
You can see the flames are burning in the hills.
This fire appears to have started in the foothills just north of the Pacific Palisades themselves. The Palisades, if you've never been there, is this sort of idyllic community, very secluded, well outside the hustle and bustle of downtown LA itself. Nestled between the Pacific Ocean, the mountains to the north, Malibu is to the west, Santa Monica is to the east. A lot of celebrities live there. And one celebrity, actor James Woods, would be among the first to post video of the fire approaching his home.
Standing in my driveway getting ready to evacuate. We've got a lot of planes going over, dropping water.
He posted that just before noon local time, within about an hour of the fire starting. Only a few hours later, with the caption, "2 houses from us," a short video of a neighbor's home being consumed. The first major problem almost everyone would have run into was figuring out how to escape once you got the call ordering you to. They played this voicemail live on KTLA 5.
Evacuate now from the area of Palisades area. Those not in the evacuation area should shelter in place. Evacuation order for Palisades fire.
But this was what it looked like when you're not quite sure whether you're driving away from or into danger. Now, I've geolocated this video to exactly this stretch of Palisades Drive. Kelsey Trainer, the evacuee who shot the video, she's heading south along Palisades and heading towards Sunset Boulevard. But you can see the geography of the part of the Palisades that she was coming from. There are no options. You are literally surrounded by mountains, which are on fire, and Palisades Drive is the only way out. From her follow-up post, there is also only one road in and out of this area, and this was the road. Nowhere else to go. This is the emergency route.
Which is your house?
yeah, this is our house. Backyard's on fire. I'm out of here.
Oh my gosh. So what happened? Is there anything we can do to help you, sir?
You can take these paintings, I guess. I can't ride with these.
I've seen accounts of it taking some people hours just to leave their neighborhoods because so many people were trying to leave all at once. Even if you had a car, you might have been tempted to ditch it and go on foot because of the gridlock. And this is what lots of people did. And that created a new problem. Permanent, unmoving gridlock, which makes responding to an emergency impossible. So this is what county crews had to spend their time doing, literally bulldozing dozens of cars out of the way, all of them left abandoned. But the evacuation was just one problem. The wind and the water were 2 others. Southern California has been facing incredibly dry conditions lately. In January, that's winter. It's supposed to rain a lot, but they've gotten almost nothing for months.
LAX has their driest start to the water here on record, and records date back to 1944.
So when the Palisades fire did spark and embers started to fly, dry brush provided fuel and the wind provided an unstoppable push.
High pressure over the Rockies, low pressure is going to be part of this coast-to-coast storm system, and that's funneling in the Santa Ana winds.
According to Pasadena's fire chief, the wind was the #1 factor causing the fire to spread so quickly. And that happens in two ways. One, the burning hot embers from the wildfire. The wind blows them far and wide, and they start new fires. According to the LA Fire Department, sometimes miles ahead of the flame front.
They're trying to throw the hose up on the roof so they can start to spray the palm tree itself, but as you see, pieces are falling down.
But the wind also made it impossible for water bombers to fly at all. By the evening, on the day the Palisades fire started, all firefighting aircraft were grounded. It was simply too dangerous to fly.
Hurricane-force winds are usually accompanied by rainstorms, but these are hurricane-force winds that are combined with extremely dry drought conditions.
But if the wind was what made the wildfires so deadly, it was the lack of water that made them impossible to fight.
We had a tremendous demand on our system in the Palisades. We pushed the system to the extreme. 4 times the normal demand was seen for 15 hours straight.
One of the biggest stories to come out of the Palisades wildfire is how the city's water supply failed to meet the moment. You see, there are 3 water tanks, these huge million-gallon tanks that firefighters in that area can draw upon. The hydrants are connected to those 3 tanks, and many of them sputtered dry within 15 hours.
We ran out of water in the first tank at about 4:45 p.m. yesterday. We ran out of water in the second tank about 8:30 p.m. and the third tank about 3 a.m. this morning.
And the reason this happened has a lot to do with the geography of the Palisades itself. So the Palisades are on slightly higher ground than the rest of LA. The reason you would position water tanks on high ground is so gravity can help push the water through the pipes down to where they're needed. But if those tanks run dry, you have to reload them from other tanks, and those reserve tanks are on lower ground. That's a more difficult process, and certainly slower than needed to keep those frontline water tanks full. And turns out, the immense drain on water causes the water pressure in the system to plunge, which makes the water that is flowing through the system unsafe to drink.
Because we're pushing the water system so hard, our water quality is decreasing. We have a lot of ash in the system, and so please, if you're gonna be drinking water, you need to boil the water.
Right now, the situation on the ground is moving so quickly, it's hard to give firm details that'll hold up. But what we can tell you, the California National Guard has been deployed. The winds have died down somewhat, allowing water bombers to get back into the air. And the federal government is sending helicopters and dozens of other vehicles to join the fight. Other states, too, are sending manpower. Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, all chipping in. But the fight is just phase 1. The recovery is expected to be long and hard. The epicenter of these fires, the Palisades, Malibu, Altadena, they've all been hollowed out. These communities have been burned to the ground. One insurance estimate put the damage at $10 billion US. And as I said at the start, the biggest of the fires, at the time I record this, still 0% contained.